I was a dedicated civil engineer working on an important infrastructure project in Tanzania. My 12-year marriage to Melissa and our 10-year-old daughter Sophie meant everything to me, even though I had to sacrifice family time to provide financial stability. Then one night I received shocking divorce papers via email while sitting alone in my temporary apartment. The attached message from Melissa cut deep. Even our daughter agrees. LOL. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button to see how I transformed this cruel betrayal into the most unexpected victory. My journey to Tanzania began long before I stepped on that plane. I had built my career in civil engineering through years of dedication and hard work. After graduating from Boston University, I landed an entry-level position at a respected firm where the hours were long and the pay was modest. During those early career days, I met Melissa at a friend's birthday party. She was studying marketing and had dreams of working for a major advertising agency. We connected instantly over our ambitions and desire to build something meaningful. Within 2 years, we were married and expecting Sophie. The timing was challenging. I was still establishing myself professionally while Melissa put her career on hold. Money was tight, and the pressure to provide weighed heavily on my shoulders. I worked overtime whenever possible, took on side consulting projects, and applied for every promotion. My dedication paid off when I became a project manager by 30, but the demanding schedule meant I missed many of Sophie's early milestones. As Sophie started elementary school, Melissa returned to work part-time at a local marketing firm. Our financial situation improved, but the foundation of our relationship had subtle cracks. I was too busy to notice. We settled into a comfortable routine where I focused on career advancement while Melissa managed our home life. When the opportunity to lead a major infrastructure project in Tanzania appeared, it represented everything I had worked toward: international experience, career advancement, and substantially higher pay. The project involved designing and overseeing construction of a critical bridge connecting remote communities to essential services. It was a 6-month assignment that would require my full presence in East Africa. I brought it up during dinner one evening, expecting resistance. Sophie immediately protested, tears forming in her eyes at the thought of my extended absence. Melissa, however, surprised me with her apparent support. "This is what you have worked for," she said, with an encouraging smile that never quite reached her eyes. "We will be fine for 6 months. Sophie and I will have girl time, and you can call every day." Despite Sophie's lingering disappointment, we agreed as a family that this temporary sacrifice would benefit our future. I spent the weeks before departure creating special daddy-daughter moments with Sophie and romantic evenings with Melissa. I genuinely believed we were solid enough to weather the temporary separation. My first weeks in Tanzania were exhilarating despite the challenging conditions. The project site was located 4 hours from Dar es Salaam, accessible only by rough dirt roads that turned to mud during frequent rain. The work was demanding but fulfilling. I led a team of 30 engineers and laborers, coordinated with government officials, and navigated complex logistics in an unfamiliar environment. Each evening after work, I would return to my modest apartment, shower off the red dust that covered everything, and video call home. Sophie would eagerly share stories about school, her art projects, and the neighborhood cat she had befriended. Melissa seemed supportive, asking about the project and sharing updates about household matters. These daily connections sustained me through the cultural adjustment and physical exhaustion. By the 2nd month, subtle changes emerged in our communication pattern. The calls became shorter, with Melissa often saying they were running late for activities or needed to prepare dinner. Sophie still chatted enthusiastically, but her time on the calls decreased as Melissa hovered nearby, frequently interjecting that they needed to go. When I asked about weekend plans, Melissa mentioned new community events, evening classes, and social gatherings that had never been part of their routine before. "We are staying busy," she would say, with a slight edge to her voice. "It helps the time pass." I sent extra money home despite the significant expenses in Tanzania. Project housing was not free, and I was determined to save for the family vacation I had promised when I returned. I also arranged for delivery of gifts, a local art piece for Melissa, and a handcrafted bracelet for Sophie. Melissa acknowledged receiving them with a brief text message rather than during our calls. By the third month, our video chats had dwindled to twice weekly instead of daily. Melissa claimed their internet service had become unreliable, though Sophie had mentioned nothing about connectivity issues during her brief school-related emails. When we did connect, a strange tension hung in the air. Melissa appeared distracted, checking her phone or glancing off camera. Her responses became clipped, and she rarely asked about my experiences anymore. Something had shifted, but I attributed it to the strain of separation and focused on completing the project efficiently so I could return home sooner. Exactly 3 months and 2 weeks into my assignment, the email arrived while I was reviewing structural calculations in my apartment. The subject line read simply, "Important documents." Opening it revealed a PDF attachment of formal divorce papers and a brief message, "Please sign and return. My lawyer will handle everything." The shock froze me. In place, my coffee cup suspended halfway to my lips. No discussion, no warning, just legal documents ending 12 years of marriage. As I struggled to process this, my phone pinged with a text message from Melissa. "Even our daughter agrees, LOL. Just sign the papers." The casual cruelty of that LOL shattered something inside me. My hands shook as I tried to call her, but she did not answer. I tried again and again, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. Finally, a text message appeared. "Stop calling. This is happening whether you like it or not." I tried calling Sophie, but the call went straight to voicemail. Within minutes, another text from Melissa arrived. "Leave Sophie out of this. She does not want to talk right now." That night became a blur of disbelief and anguish. I paced my small apartment, alternating between rage and devastation. Had I misread our entire relationship? Was Sophie truly agreeing with this decision? The thought of my daughter rejecting me sent me into a panic attack. My chest tightened, my breathing became shallow, and the room spun around me. Sleep evaded me completely. I spent hours scrolling through family photos on my phone, searching for clues I might have missed. Every happy moment now seemed suspect. By morning, physical symptoms manifested. My eyes were swollen, my stomach rejected food, and a persistent tremor affected my hands. I called in sick, unable to focus on complex engineering calculations in my current state. The following days brought only minimal clarification. Melissa sent terse responses to my questions, stating that she had outgrown the marriage and wanted a fresh start. She deflected questions about Sophie, saying only that our daughter was adjusting well to the idea of divorce. The formal, detached tone of her messages felt like communicating with a stranger, not the woman who had shared my bed and life for 12 years. The personal crisis quickly affected my professional performance. Calculations that normally came easily now required triple checking. During an important site meeting, I completely missed a critical question from a government inspector. The team noticed my distraction, exchanging concerned glances, when I called a senior engineer by the wrong name twice in the same conversation. Jabari, my Tanzanian deputy project manager, approached me after a particularly difficult meeting where I had stared blankly at design modifications without comprehending their significance. Unlike the others who maintained respectful distance from my obvious distress, Jabari addressed it directly. "My friend," he said in his gentle baritone, "something troubles you deeply. The bridge we build must be strong, but right now you yourself are crumbling." His honest observation broke through my facade. Over a simple meal at his family home that evening, I confided the situation. Jabari listened without judgment, his expression thoughtful in the warm lamplight. When I finished, he offered perspective rather than pity. "In my culture we say, 'trouble shared is trouble halved,'" he said. "But also, when the ground beneath you disappears, you must learn which way is up before you can swim to the surface." His wisdom provided temporary comfort, but my distraction continued. 3 days later, I nearly caused a serious accident by approving an incorrect cable tension specification. If Jabari had not caught the error, workers could have been seriously injured. That afternoon, the project director called me to his office. "Juan, your work has been exemplary, until recently," he said firmly. Whatever personal matter is affecting you must be addressed. Take 3 days leave to sort it out, or I will be forced to replace you. This project cannot afford errors of this magnitude. During my forced leave, I finally read the divorce papers thoroughly. The agreement appeared strangely one-sided, granting Melissa our house, both vehicles, and all joint financial accounts. More disturbingly, it outlined a visitation schedule limiting my time with Sophie to 1 weekend per month, and requiring supervision during the first 6 months post-divorce. The document painted me as a neglectful father who had abandoned his family for career advancement. A characterization so false, it would have been laughable if not so devastating. Yet something inside me just wanted the pain to stop. This will make things easier, I thought, signing the papers and arranging for immediate transfer of our assets to Melissa's name as requested. After emailing the signed documents, I called Jabari, seeking distraction through work discussions. Instead, his questions about the agreement's details forced me to articulate the terms aloud. Hearing myself describe the arrangement to someone else highlighted its absurdity. "Why would you accept such terms?" Jabari asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "This does not sound like an ending between equals." His outsider perspective planted the first seed of doubt about my passive acceptance. That night I called my brother Anthony in Boston, waking him at an unreasonable hour. After listening to my situation, his response was explosive. "Are you kidding me?" You signed that. His voice rose with each word. "Juan, there are rumors around the neighborhood. Melissa has been seen with someone repeatedly over the past months. Your old boss, I think." The mention of Harold Thompson, my former supervisor, who had always shown unusual interest in our family gatherings, sent a cold wave of realization through me. Harold had left our firm for a competitor 6 months before my departure, creating an opening that allowed me to take the Tanzania assignment. The timing suddenly seemed suspicious rather than fortunate. The next morning began my investigation in earnest. I called several mutual friends, most of whom seemed uncomfortable and evasive. Their awkward pauses and careful wording suggested they knew more than they were saying. One friend mentioned they had not seen Melissa at their usual monthly book club meetings, with Melissa claiming she had other commitments these days. Checking social media revealed that Melissa had removed our family photos from her profiles, replacing them with new images of herself in unfamiliar settings. More telling was a check of our joint credit card statements online, showing charges at expensive restaurants I had never heard of on evenings, when Melissa had told me she was attending parent meetings at school. My next video call with Sophie felt staged. She sat unnaturally still, her responses sounding rehearsed as Melissa hovered just visible at the edge of the frame. When I asked Sophie directly if she was okay with the divorce, Melissa immediately interrupted, claiming Sophie needed to prepare for a school event and ending the call abruptly. That afternoon, an unexpected email arrived from our former neighbor Linda, who had moved to Arizona the previous year, but still kept in touch with several community members. "Juan, I do not know if this is my place, but I visited last month and saw something concerning," she wrote. "A man has been regularly at your house driving a black Audi. My friend across the street says he often stays overnight while you are away." The description matched Harold's vehicle perfectly. With shaking hands, I searched social media for Harold and discovered he had been promoted to executive director at his new firm just weeks after my departure. An unusually rapid advancement that now appeared suspect. The next revelation came from comparing dates. Harold's promotion had been announced just 3 weeks after I left for Tanzania. The timing aligned perfectly with the beginning of Melissa's behavioral changes during our calls. I searched my email archives and found an old company newsletter mentioning Harold's new firm pursuing contracts with the same Tanzanian government department overseeing my current project. The connections formed a disturbing pattern. Was my assignment in Tanzania somehow connected to Harold's plans for both his career and my wife? Had my absence been deliberately engineered? The questions multiplied as evidence mounted. I needed concrete proof beyond speculation and coincidence. I called Anthony again, asking for a significant favor. Though reluctant to involve himself in potential drama, he agreed to drive by my house the following evening and take photos of whatever he observed. The results arrived in my email 24 hours later. Anthony had documented Harold's Audi in my driveway on a Tuesday evening. More disturbing were the photos of Harold entering the house, using his own key, carrying an overnight bag and groceries like he lived there. The most painful images showed Sophie looking withdrawn as she exited the car after what appeared to be a school pickup, Harold's hand on her shoulder in a paternal gesture that made my stomach churn. That same day, an email arrived from Sophie's art teacher expressing concern about recent behavioral changes and drawings that suggest emotional distress. Attached was a scan of Sophie's artwork, showing a small figure alone on one side of a bridge, while two taller figures stood together on the opposite side. The symbolism was heartbreakingly clear. The final pieces fell into place when Anthony accessed my home computer, remotely using the emergency credentials I had established years earlier. He discovered email exchanges between Melissa and Harold, dating back 8 months long before my departure. Their correspondence revealed a calculated plan. Harold would help secure my assignment abroad, while positioning himself for career advancement through connections with the Tanzanian project. Most devastating were messages where they discussed manipulating Sophie. She will adjust to the new arrangement Melissa had written. Juan will be forgotten within months, Harold responded. Once he signs everything over, we can drop the pretense. They had even joked about my obliviousness, with Melissa writing, "He actually believes I support his career. LOL. That familiar LOL from the text message about the divorce papers was not coincidental. It was a private joke between conspirators who had orchestrated my professional exile to facilitate their relationship and financial gain. The full realization of this betrayal crushed me completely. I stopped eating, barely slept, and could not focus on basic tasks. Jabari found me in this state when I failed to appear for a scheduled site visit. Concerned for my well-being, he brought me to his family home rather than leaving me alone. "You have reached the bottom of the ocean," he said, as his wife silently placed food before me that I could not eat. "Now you must decide whether to drown or push toward the surface." That night, lying on a simple cot in Jabari's spare room, I confronted the painful truth that I had missed warnings throughout my marriage. Melissa's increasing material demands over recent years, the luxury car upgrade, expensive home renovations, exclusive private school for Sophie, despite good public options, suddenly appeared as symptoms rather than normal. Progression. Harold's inappropriate behavior had been visible too. His lingering attention to Melissa at company functions, offering her unsolicited career advice, suggesting family vacation destinations that always seemed to coincide with his own travel plans. Once he had even commented that Sophie looked nothing like me, a remark I had dismissed as awkward conversation rather than the calculated assessment it likely was. The morning brought clarity after a night of painful reflection. This was not just about salvaging my relationship with Sophie or reclaiming property. This was about standing up for myself against people who had calculated that my dedication to family and career made me an easy target for exploitation. Deeper still was the understanding that my own workaholic tendencies and emotional disconnection had created fertile ground for this betrayal. "I will not be erased from my daughter's life," I told Jabari over morning coffee. "Nor will I allow them to profit from manipulating me." My attorney friend Marcus in New York responded immediately to my urgent call, listening intently to the situation before outlining potential legal options. The signed divorce agreement was concerning but not irrevocable, given the evidence of deliberate deception. Document everything Marcus advised: dates, communications, witnesses. We need to establish a pattern of calculated deception and parental alienation. Over the next 48 hours, I assembled comprehensive documentation. Financial records showed my consistent support of the family. Email and text histories demonstrated my regular attempts to maintain connection with Sophie. Performance reviews from work contradicted the characterization of me as neglectful or irresponsible. Most importantly, the evidence of Melissa and Harold's premeditated plan established clear grounds for contesting the divorce terms. A colleague with digital forensic experience recovered deleted emails, showing Harold had specifically requested information about my Tanzania project from a contact at the government ministry, information that would benefit his firm while ensuring I remained overseas during their planned transition. This connection between my professional assignment and their personal scheme added a dimension of calculated manipulation that strengthened my case. Most damning was a recovered video call recording where Sophie clearly stated, "I miss Daddy and want him to come home," directly contradicting the claim that she supported the divorce. This emotional manipulation of a child crossed a line that even Melissa's closest friends would find difficult to defend. The final element emerged when investigating Harold's professional conduct. His firm had strict ethics policies, prohibiting personal relationships with family members of project partners. His pursuit of Tanzanian contracts while romantically involved with the spouse of a key project manager violated multiple corporate governance rules and potentially constituted conflict of interest under international development standards. With comprehensive evidence assembled, Marcus filed an emergency petition contesting the original divorce terms based on fraud and coercion. Simultaneously, he prepared documentation for Harold's employer outlining the ethical violations. Rather than acting from emotional impulse, each step followed a strategic plan designed to protect Sophie's well-being while addressing the professional and personal betrayals systematically. Without informing Melissa, I arranged emergency leave from the project and flew home. The 19-hour journey provided time to rehearse what needed to be said and done. This would not be a confrontation fueled by anger, but rather a calculated reclamation of my rights and relationships. I arrived at our house still legally joint property despite the signed agreement on a Thursday afternoon when Sophie would be returning from school. Harold's Audi sat in the driveway beside Melissa's new luxury SUV that had not existed before my departure. I parked across the street and waited documentation organized in my briefcase. When Harold pulled into the driveway with Sophie in the passenger seat, I approached calmly. Sophie spotted me first, her expression transforming from surprise to joy as she bolted from the car and ran toward me. "Daddy, you came home," she cried, colliding with me in an embrace that confirmed everything I needed to know about her true feelings. Harold froze his face, cycling through shock, anger, and calculation. Melissa emerged from the house, phone in hand, her expression hardening when she saw me holding our daughter. "Sophie, go inside, please," she commanded sharply. "No," I said firmly. "Sophie stays with me while we discuss the situation like adults." Inside with Sophie, settled in the adjacent room with her tablet and headphones, I placed the documentation on the kitchen counter. Instead of accusations, I presented facts methodically. The email timeline, the financial records, the corporate ethics violations, the evidence of deliberately manipulating Sophie. "I have filed to invalidate the divorce agreement based on fraud," I explained calmly. "Harold's employer has received documentation of ethical violations this morning. The house and accounts remain legally contested pending court review." Melissa's confident demeanor crumbled as she realized I was not the emotional wreck they had anticipated. Harold attempted legal threats until I mentioned the recorded conversation where they explicitly discussed manipulating me while I was overseas. "You have 24 hours to remove your belongings, Harold," I said evenly. "Melissa, we will establish a temporary custody arrangement until the court hearing next week. I have already spoken with Sophie's school counselor about supporting her through this transition." Their expectation of my continued passivity had been their miscalculation. They had anticipated emotional outbursts and threats, not documented evidence and legal strategy. Harold departed within the hour after a tense private conversation with Melissa. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and they knew it. The subsequent legal proceedings unfolded with surprisingly little drama. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Melissa's attorney advised negotiation rather than contested litigation. The original divorce agreement was invalidated, replaced with equitable division of assets and joint custody of Sophie, with appropriate therapeutic support. Harold's professional consequences proved significant. The ethics investigation resulted in his demotion and removal from all Tanzanian projects. The promotion he had leveraged his connections to secure was rescinded with formal reprimand entered into his employment record. The calculated career advancement that had partially motivated his actions evaporated. Rather than returning to the compromised home environment, I purchased a comfortable townhouse near Sophie's school. The space quickly became her favorite refuge, decorated with art supplies and filled with books they had previously considered unnecessary expenditures. Sophie's art teacher reported significant improvement in her emotional expression, particularly after beginning sessions with a child psychologist specializing in divorce transitions. Melissa made several attempts at reconciliation over the following months, claiming she had made a terrible mistake and suggesting we try again for Sophie's sake. I declined firmly, but respectfully recognizing that her regret stemmed more from the collapsed plan than genuine emotional connection. We will be effective co-parents, I told her, during a calm exchange of Sophie's belongings. But that is the only relationship we will have moving forward. With Jabari's support, I completed the Tanzanian project remotely, making strategic site visits while maintaining Sophie's new stability as my priority. The professional reputation I had feared might be damaged by the personal crisis, instead strengthened as colleagues recognized my ability to manage complex situations under extraordinary pressure. 1 year after the divorce papers arrived in my email, Sophie celebrated her 11th birthday with a party attended by friends from both households. Melissa and I maintained civil communication, focused entirely on Sophie's well-being. The painfully choreographed custody exchanges gradually transformed into straightforward logistics as adult egos took backstage to parental responsibility. My professional life transformed as well. The successful completion of the Tanzania project, despite personal challenges, led to an unexpected job offer, designing sustainable infrastructure for underserved American communities. The position allowed me to remain close to Sophie while utilizing the international experience I had gained. Through Sophie's school art program, I met Catherine, a dedicated art educator whose genuine warmth and integrity stood in stark contrast to the calculated manipulation I had experienced. Our friendship developed naturally over months of school events and Sophie's enthusiastic art projects. When it gradually evolved into something more, Sophie's delighted approval meant everything. "She actually listens when I talk," Dad Sophie observed after Catherine had spent an afternoon teaching her a complex painting technique, "and she makes you smile with your eyes, not just your mouth." Melissa eventually established a healthier relationship with someone unconnected to our past. The distance created by separate households actually improved communication, as co-parents removing the accumulated resentments of our marriage and allowing focus on Sophie's needs rather than personal grievances. Jabari and I maintained regular communication, his wisdom continuing to provide perspective during challenging transitions. He visited during a professional conference, bringing handcrafted gifts for Sophie and sharing meals with our reconstructed family circle. His observation during that visit remains with me still. "The bridge we built in Tanzania connects communities previously divided," he said thoughtfully. "But you, my friend, have built something stronger. A bridge between the man you were and the man you have become." The journey through betrayal revealed that hardship does indeed show us the true nature of our relationships and ourselves. The painful dissolution of my marriage created space for authentic connections based on mutual respect rather than convenience or calculation. What began as devastating loss ultimately led to unexpected gains, not just materially, but in self-knowledge, purpose, and genuine relationships. The professional ambition that once drove me to sacrifice family time transformed into balanced priorities where career success complements rather than competes with personal connections. Most importantly, Sophie now witnesses relationships based on honesty and respect rather than manipulation and material gain, a foundation that will serve her far better than the hollow stability I had tried to maintain. Through this experience, I learned that responding strategically, rather than reacting emotionally, allows us to transform crisis into opportunity. The strength found in vulnerability and acknowledging pain and seeking support creates resilience that calculation and control can never achieve. Most significantly, I discovered that forgiveness does not require reconciliation, and that maintaining self-respect sometimes means walking away from those who have proven unworthy of trust. What lesson resonated most with you from this story? Has betrayal ever revealed unexpected strength in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this journey of overcoming manipulation touched something in you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over life's deepest challenges. Remember, sometimes when people try to break you, they actually create the cracks that let your true light shine through. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to stand tall in your own moments of truth.